Tim, what role does encryption play in a cybersecurity strategy?
I think it's an essential one. It's a two-parter. You have your access management, which is always important, but just as important is encryption. Your data is going to have to be stored somewhere and it needs to be encrypted.
Specific to healthcare and to healthcare providers, what value does encryption bring?
I see it as essential to compliance, whether that be our usual HIPAA and high tech. I know it's not mandated by HIPAA, but it is addressable, and usually when I've spoken to different consulting firms who do compliance, it's a no-brainer. They always want to have some level of encryption. I think for the most part the HIPAA law was in case a different type of technology came into play. That's why they didn't want to specifically call it encryption, but behind the scenes everybody knows encryption truly is essential. Why
aren't we seeing encryption more widely adopted?
That has a couple different facets to it. If I go back and we look at breaches in general, there's about, just since 2013, there's been 13.5 billion records breached. That averages about 6 million a day. It's 25,000 records. Usually, I think the average was 3.8 million a record. You would think that would scare just about everybody. Add to that, 95% of the data that's been breached was unencrypted. You knock down the pins, and here you are going, why? Why isn't it? And I think specific to healthcare, you have this fear of crypto knowledge that turns people off right away. A lot of these folks don't have CISOs, and they just sit there and their eyes roll in the back of their head. You take the fact that it's hard to implement. People get scared of having to maintain that on a daily basis. Performance is another big one. Don't let anybody fool you. Encryption will always impact performance. The race and the value add for us is we've put it at less than 5%, which is it's a differentiator that we're starting to see a lot of traction with, the specific in the healthcare. These are the items that I think really scare people, and then let alone, last one is, if you encrypt something, what do you do with the key? Because you have to have a key to encrypt and decrypt. And then again, people don't know what to do with that. So all of these things together, I think dragging the healthcare folks across the line is a struggle. But I think we have an easy enough solution where we should see better traction and more widely accepted, because I think everybody wants to avoid an OCR fine. Those fines can get pretty substantial. I know that wall of shame, I think they call it, if you go to the OCR, it's pretty extensive, and for me, it's a great lead gen place.
You talked about these hurdles, these obstacles. How does ZetaSet clear those hurdles and provide a superior encryption experience compared to those already on the market?
There's quite a few surveys out about this, whereby I've sort of hit on it before, performance. You're going to impact performance, and folks don't like that. Second would be the complication of install and then maintenance. Third would be the knowledge based with it. Fourth would be, what do I do with the keys? Now, there was another study done that said half of the keys that are out there, they're being managed by Excel spreadsheets or on paper. So there is this fear of even putting a key manager in place. So with all those in, our value comes from simplicity and the installation process. We have one customer we were able to install in 6 hours. Yeah, and from there they were able to install once, deploy many. I think they had 800 servers encrypted by the end of the day. You do not need to back up and restore. You can immediately encrypt data in place. It's a big differentiator, because you can imagine the heavy lifting that has to be done with backups, restore. And then the other option that folks tend to wander toward for that compliance check, which I think you've probably heard of, is self-encrypting drives. These things all together are differentiators. We're software only. There is no appliance or hardware. When you bundle that all together and you can scale it across any geography, you've got a differentiator I think a lot of folks are getting a lot of interest in. We look at 2020 as our breakout year.
Where does ZetaSet sit? Where is it placed within the broader cybersecurity infrastructure?
There's a lot of confusion sometimes over where encryption lies. We all hear about the phone encryption. That's not what we do. We don't do the end devices such as laptops, computers. That's not where we are. Once that data is generated, from that point in where it gets stored, whether the data at rest or data in motion is the IoT gateway, which aggregates all those IoT devices, or then it's pumped back to the data center. Now the data center can either take it to the cloud or it can hold on to it. And it can go up one level to a VM, or it can go up again to the new hot technology, which is containers. In any of those environments, it's data at rest, and it needs to be encrypted. And that's where we play within the infrastructure. And it's just as at higher risk as the IoT edge devices.
What level of success are you seeing in healthcare?
One provider in particular in Wisconsin, they used our full package. We have the data at rest encryption, the data in motion encryption, and the key manager. These folks had no crypto experience on staff. And again, they were able to have a one-day session of training, get it up. And to this day, I believe we've had one call in 3 years. So from that alone, that's our testament that there's ease of use involved with this and it's doing its job.
What does the future look like for cybersecurity and ZetaSet?
I view the amount of data as the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity. When we look back just over the charting the last 2 years, 90% of the data in the planet has been made. 90%. Now we go back a little bit further and look at 2013, there was 1 zettabyte. Name sound familiar? 16 zettabytes currently exist in the world today, and 175 are due to be created in 6 years. So when you look at that, that's 2.8 quadrillion gigabytes, and there's opportunities galore to somehow, some way protect them. It's a dual balance of access controls and encryption. The two go together. And we believe that the encryption piece has become to a point where there is so much theft, data breach and data theft out there. Really the only way to avoid, specific to healthcare, a HIPAA violation is to make sure everything is encrypted and you can avoid the notification as well. I do believe that now, and I'm not sure how technical we can get here, but with containers, whether it be a Docker or a Red Hat, so we're going from hardware-based encryption all the way up to this virtual encryption and out to the edge and up to the cloud. Because we're software, we can go anywhere. So I like to call it, we'll follow the data and protect it, and it's pervasive and on demand. You can spin up our encryption and bring it back down. And I truly believe the other one in 2020 will be about containers. You'll see a lot of multi-cloud and container technologies that are going to need to be encrypted. And right now, we've been told that we have first mover advantage and we're very excited about it.